We're 89.9 KMOJ, today's R&B and throwbacks. Ladies and gentlemen, you can hear it in my voice. I'm so excited to talk to Mr. Kevin Powell online right now. Hey, hello, sir. Mr. Powell, how are you, Kevin?
Is this the Glenn Golden? Shout out to you, sir. How are you?
I'm doing it's a pleasure to talk to you, man. You can hear it in my voice. You are one of the most prolific literary, political, cultural, and hip-hop voices in America. You're a poet, a journalist, civil and human rights activist, public speaker, filmmaker, a former two-time candidate for the United States Congress in New York City, and author and editor of 14 books. Should I go on? I'm just going to leave it right there, just because, we'll be talking for about like 2-3 hours about your history, man. It's a pleasure to have you online, sir. Where are you at, Mr. Powell? And matter of fact, let me throw this in there, because you are on MTV's The Real World. You were first on there with your guest. What year was that, sir? I'm telling you
that was 92, and we just did 6 new episodes, reunion episodes. Just did it. It's on Paramount Plus right now.
Wow.
All 6 episodes. Yeah. So.
Well, yeah, man, it's a pleasure for those who do remember, and now those who are just now catching up on the new series of the MTV's Real World. How does it feel to get back? We're going to get deep in a minute, but how does it feel to get back on the cast with the Real World on MTV?
Oh, it was surreal. I mean, you're talking almost 30 years later, and think about it. When we did the show originally, there was the Rodney King situation with him being videotaped, beaten, and then the verdict came down, and L.A. exploded. And then fast forward, we literally were taping this show in between the riots in D.C. with the white supremacists, and then waiting for justice for George Floyd. So it's really, the more things have changed, the more things remain the same. So it was deep, and we had some similar conversations about race, and as people know who have watched it, well, I don't want to say for folks who watch the show, let's just say the new episodes continue the dialogue around race and racism, but it's interesting to see how it comes out, and I've gotten a lot of incredible responses from it. So, we're in a difficult time in our country's history, but there's hope. I want to shout out the people of Minnesota, the folks who were out there in the streets, because if it wasn't for folks there in Minnesota and all around the country and all around the world, I don't know if we would have gotten the verdict that we got this week. So I just want to thank y'all who were doing it there in Minnesota, including you. Yeah.
Listen, and let me ask you this now. Were you I know I was very nervous. I'll put that out right now because I was like, oh, man. Were you very nervous on the verdict?
I was stressed. Like a lot of us, you're just waiting and praying for the best. But then we've seen it before. Because look at Rodney King. I mean, he literally was beaten on videotape over 80 times, hit with the baton, the police baton, and they said not guilty for everyone. So, but I believe this is different this time because it's like there was such an outpouring. Remember, it was mostly kind of contained to L.A. back in the early 90s. Right. This thing was worldwide around George Floyd, worldwide. That's the difference,
Definitely worldwide, because you look at the news, you had Tokyo, China, everybody. I mean, you can just name it. And you've been all around the world. And, of course, you are an activist. And you have this new book, When We Free the World. Tell us about this book real quick before we talk about Mr. Floyd. Tell us about When We Free the World.
Well, it's actually about our country, where we are, the last few years. And so I deal with racism. I deal with violence against women. I deal with poverty. I deal with all these different issues. And it's really kind of a call for us. If you look at the book cover, it's young people of all backgrounds, Black, white, Latinx, Asian, Native American. It's folks, it's saying that we got to come together. We got to figure out how to talk with each other, how to listen to each other. But just as importantly, it's not enough to say that you don't support racism. You got to say that you're anti-racist. You got to say that I'm willing to do the work. And I think that, again, what happened to George Floyd in Minnesota last year, I've never seen so many people asking, what do I read? What do I need to watch? What do I need to listen to? What can I do? And, and I'm talking about my white sisters and brothers, white folks, the white community, but it's all of us. We can't take our foot off the pedal, because we know that Dante Wright, right there in Minnesota, and
right now.
And the young sister who just got killed in Ohio. It's like, this is nonstop. Or the 13-year-old boy in Chicago, Adam Toledo. It's like, there's so many examples of this. And so what we really want to go for, and what I'm saying in the book, is like, we have to have a national policy, a federal law that bans certain kinds of police practices, one for all, and reforms police departments, and redirects the money. Some people call it defund the police. I'm saying there has to be something in place that actually changes the way our communities are taken care of. Like most of us don't feel safe anywhere, and the last thing we're going to do is call the police because of the history of what we've had to deal with, and that's where we are. And so that's what When We Free the World is about, because it's like none of us are free until we can actually move around and not worry about being kneed to death or shot, as we're just being pulled over for a simple traffic violation like what happened to Dante Wright. That's unacceptable.
Yes,
that's unacceptable.
Mr. Kevin Wright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about. He has a book out, When We Free the World. As we speak, sir, we have Reverend Al Sharpton, we have the lawyers and everybody. Dante Wright is being, the funeral is happening in less than 15 minutes. It's already started right down the street. And it's just incredible times. And everybody in Ohio and all around the world, like you said, how can we get this book and get more information, When We Free the World?
Well, people can go to Amazon to get the book, and also the ebook, and they can go to Apple Books to get the audiobook version or the ebook there. Definitely Apple Books and Amazon for that. And just, if I can say this, and blessings to the family. I was just reading about it as about the funeral today. And it's just, it hurts my heart, man, to see people have to bury someone who's, young. You know what I'm saying? He's 20 years old. He's 20 years old. Yeah. The young sister in Ohio was 16 years old. And I just think that, this has got to change. It has to be federal law. And I'm encouraging folks, keep protesting, keep organizing, keep putting the pressure on until we get permanent systemic change. So that's what has to happen.
Yes, sir. And then we try to, at KMOJ, we always influence, protect, and get out there and make your voices heard, but at the same time, do it in a peaceful manner.
That's right. And for folks who say that voting doesn't matter, I want to shout out my brother Keith Ellison, who's your state attorney general, because if a black man, if a person who wasn't progressive like him was not elected to attorney general, then I doubt we would have had the outcome that we had as well. Let's be clear about that. Voting does matter because it can get certain people into office who care about all people, as Keith Ellison does. Shout out to Keith Ellison, your attorney general, which led, I believe, to him putting together a phenomenal and multicultural team of lawyers, and they were able to present an incredible case, and that's it. Derek Chauvin.
And you know what else, sir, I would like to say, for some of those may not agree with what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. Some of the police are not bad. I mean, a lot of the police officers are not bad, and I applaud the police officers who stood up in court and said, no, it was not right. We don't teach this policy, especially our chief, Hernando. Oh, it's incredible. And I think they're setting the precedence for other police officers around the country. If you see officers doing wrong, then other officers step in and say something about it. What do you think, sir?
No, I agree with you. No one, at least I won't say it as a leader, as an activist. I would never say all police officers are this or that. I have police officers in my family. There are police officers I went to school with, all of that. But what we're saying is that it has to change the practices of how our communities are protected. And that means that, maybe police officers should not be given all the responsibilities they're given. They're not qualified to deal with mental health issues. They're not qualified to settle a lot of disputes. I mean, most of the police calls, often in communities of color, are for either intimate partner violence or they're for mental health issues. They're not trained for those types of things. They're trained, unfortunately, to shoot. And so that's part of the problem. And so, there were police officers who stood up and testified, and I respect them, I honor them. But I also need to say, look, as Derek Chauvin was kneeling to death for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, George Floyd, 3 other officers stood there and did nothing. And they're about to be on trial later this year as well, as they should be, because you basically are an accomplice to a murder. And so until we change the culture, that's the issue. The culture has to change, where it's not violence first. It actually is care and love for the community. It's actually care and love for people who are different than us. It's actually about being culturally competent. If you're going to be working in the community in any capacity, you should actually know the community that you're working in. It can't be, I'm afraid of the community. It can't be, the community is something that I need to put down and constrain. It can't be the first thing that I'm going to do is pull my gun out and shoot people or do something violent to that person. That's unacceptable.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking with Mr. Kevin Powell. He has the book out right now. Is it available right now, sir? I'm sorry, I'm speaking too fast.
Yeah, it's available now. No, you're right. It's available on Amazon and Apple Books. It's called When We Free the World. And it's really about our country and where I feel like we can go next. And I just think, there's hope. Let me say that we should honor this victory. This is a small victory, what happened with the Derek Chauvin trial. But we can't bring back George Floyd. We can't bring back Breonna Taylor. We can't bring back Dante Wright. We can't bring back Sandra Bland. And so our goal now is, how do we stop these things? Because what has happened over the last few years, as you know, Glenn Golden, is that it's on pandemic levels with these killings, just like the lynchings were 100 years ago. And anyone should be upset about the fact that this is normalized in our society where people can just get killed just because of who they are. But I have hope. I have hope because of all the outpouring of love that we've seen in America, in Minnesota, around the world.
Yes, sir.
And it's just incredible. I never thought I'd see anything like this. It's been beautiful, but we got to keep it going. We got to keep it going, and not forget that the Civil Rights Movement was 1955 to 1968. It was 13 years of work. We're only talking about 1 year. We got a lot of work to do, y'all. We got a lot of work to do. We got to keep going.
This is just like it's already been started, but now we have to carry on, and we have to keep on pushing. Like you said, we got to keep on. Don't let it just fade away, and like a year later, then something else happens, and then you want to come back. No, we have to keep boots on the ground. That's right.
That's right. That's right. I just appreciate the love that's out there, and I just think that we can turn around. We were able to get someone out of the presidency who really did major damage to the country over the last 4 years. I don't even want to say his name, Mr. Golden. It's just, and we saw the craziness that happened in January with the riots in D.C. I mean, there's a level of hatred there, and it just doesn't make any sense to me, like how the level of hatred that's out there. Like, love is the answer. Love is the answer. Not hating people because they're who they are. Not doing violence to people. It's got to be love. This is what it is.
Before the TV show, sir, at 25, you've been an activist, so you've been around the world. This is nothing new. Nobody's just jumping on the radio just saying something what they feel. You're telling it from the truth, from what you have seen and witnessed, sir. So we applaud you, Mr. Kevin Powell. Thank you, man.
No, thank you. And I would be remiss if I didn't say I love Prince so much, and shout out to Prince. I wrote a blog. Yeah, man. It's 5 years as of yesterday, this week, that he passed, and it still hurts my heart.
Yeah.
That he's not here with us. But I was listening to his music yesterday. I've been listening to his music today. And I mean, Prince was a prophet. Prince, gave Minnesota produced. I hope people understand what he represents, not just to Minnesota, but to the whole world, and how much so many of us love him. And I've wondered, I'm sure you've wondered as well, what would Prince be doing if he was alive and going through all of this?
I was getting ready to ask you that. I ask the listeners that all the time. I said, what would Prince be looking down from heaven saying right now? You know what? Since you mentioned Prince, after we go into the commercial break, his brand new song is called Welcome to America. He visionized a long years and years ago. And it's so relevant that the music that we're playing, that he's speaking about what is happening right now. He foreseed it. So I've got you, Kevin, on the other side. I'm going to play some Prince. It's called Welcome to America, sir. And thank you so much. When we free the world, I know that you are all around the world right now. What is your next stop? And once again, tell everybody how we can get the book, When We Free the World.
Well, folks can go to Amazon and Apple Books, Amazon and Apple Books, to get the ebook and paperback on Amazon, and you can get the audiobook, which I read myself in my voice, and the ebook on Apple Books. And, just thinking about Prince, if you get a chance to, please go to HuffPost website. I have a blog there called The Day That Our Prince Died, and I talk about the impact of Prince. And I'll tell you a funny story really quickly. I met Prince through Dave Chappelle a few years ago when I was writing a cover story on Dave Chappelle for Esquire magazine. And Prince called Dave after the Grammys in L.A., and we ended up at Prince's house. And I'm standing there listening to Morris Day and the Time perform. They were the guest artists at Prince's post-Grammy party. And then I felt an energy next to me. It was Prince. And he actually said to me, "You're the writer, right?" And I was like, I was so shook. I said, "Yes, that's what I could say." And then when I finally got my nerve up to actually look at him, he was gone.
oh man.
That's
incredible. Like an angel right there next to you. Like,
man, he was. And it's just, what a musical gift he gave us, that body of work. And I think, For me, and y'all know, y'all are in Minnesota. I mean, the history of music has come out of it, the jazz, the funk music, all of that laid the foundation and taught Prince, and then he gave it to us. He gave it to the world, So please, let's continue to honor him and the work that he did for us, and he'll live forever, no matter if he's not here physically. Prince will be here forever, and I just, man, I can't tell you. He's my favorite. And I saw Prince live so many times. I mean, just the most dynamic live performer I've ever seen in my life, without question. Right?
And Prince would do a show you think it may be 1 or 2 hours. He may go for 5, 6, 7 hours. He played till it don't stop.
Exactly, because he was such an artist. He was a lover of music. And I remember when he first came out, he was on American Bandstand with Dick Clark, and he didn't like that Dick Clark kind of dissed Minnesota, dissed Minneapolis. And so he refused to answer any questions. He would either nod his head or shake his head no, or he would put up fingers to answer something. Prince was something else, man. He was something else.
He's a real dude. You told me that you're a real dude. I can recognize, realize, and analyze when you say Prince, real dude, yourself as a real dude. You know what I mean? We talked offline a couple of times. You say, hey, man, I'm just a real dude. Tell me what I see. I'll never forget that. Mr. Kevin Powell, ladies and gentlemen. The book is called When We Free the World. If you'd like to get back at him, what is the email, sir, or how can they get in touch and have any questions?
Well, they can definitely reach me on Instagram, Kevin Powell in Brooklyn. Kevin Powell in Brooklyn's my Instagram and my Facebook, so please hit me up there. And is it possible for me to get a Prince request? I said, you're going to play something, but I love Starfish and Coffee. That's my song. You know what I'm saying? I just love Prince, man.
Say no more. You got it, sir, without question.
I'm going to sit here and listen. Can I just sit here and listen?
You know what? Just stay right here. I'm getting ready to play it in mere minutes. Stay where you are. Matter of fact, let me line it up in the library real quick. And go ahead and say a couple of more words, please, sir, about the positivity or anything that we should be doing in the future to stay. Because a lot of things have been happening throughout the year, of course, that you know that, and continue to happen. How our mind state has been stretched out in Minnesota, around the world. What would be your advice?
I think it's important for us, because the word trauma has come up a lot over the last few days about even the trauma, as you said, people being nervous, waiting for the verdict. I mean, all of that is traumatizing. We watched what happened to George Floyd. We've had to wait a year for this trial to happen. We waited for the verdict to happen. So it's very important that we practice both self-care and also collective community care. Like, let's make sure we take care of each other, Minnesota, United States, people around the world. Let's take care of ourselves. Let's take care of each other. Understand that this is a marathon, not a sprint. In the spirit of Nipsey Hussle, this is a marathon. This is a marathon. And make sure that you're constantly engaged in your community, because the problem is that even as we're saying we need a federal law, and it's actually it's named after George Floyd, the George Justice and Police Act is what we want to see passed. That's not going to happen if we don't get certain people out of office and get different kinds of people in office who actually support this kind of legislation on a national level to transform how our communities are policed or protected, or whatever the word is that we want to use, and to transform where these dollars go for our communities, whether we call it defunding or reallocating, whatever it is. And so that's not going to happen if we're not continually out there and involved and engaged in our communities, y'all. We can't rest on this with this verdict. That's a victory, but there's a lot more to go, because there's a lot more people, unfortunately, have lost their lives tragically and unnecessarily, and that's the work that we got to do now.
Yes, sir. All right. I'm trying to find this song in the system. I know I've got it, but right now I'm going to play a Lady Cab Driver. You want to lock this one in?
Okay. I love that. I love all Prince's stuff.
And listen, can you take more calls, a little calls real quick before you get off?
Yes, I can. Yes, sir.
612-377-3456. The number's to call. Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Powell on the line. Stay where you are. Expect the unexpected. And the singing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, by special request right there, Mr. Kevin Powell's on the line right there. We're 89.9 KMOJ, today's R&B and throwbacks. Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Powell is one of the most prolific literary, political, cultural, and hip-hop voices in America. And I'd like to call him a friend because we're just straight brothers without question, man. He has the book out right now. It's called When We Free the World. And Kevin asked for that song specifically. And I'm glad that you did. That brought a lot of memories right there, Kev. How did you love that song so much, sir?
Well, Prince actually wrote that song because of a child who was autistic. And so his sensitivity for children and for folks who are disabled really touched my heart. And there was a story that he at some point was planning on doing a whole children's album. And so even the way he made this song, he listened to the instruments, it touches me. And I just think it speaks to, again, his gift as an artist to be able to reach a wide range of people. I mean, his fan base is every background you can think of. People love Prince, and I certainly am one of them.
Yes, sir. As myself and the entire the world definitely does. Let me take a couple of calls. Can you take? You got a few more minutes. I know you're running, sir, but I got to get one more call. All right, hold on. 89.9. What's your comment? Would you like to speak to Mr. Kevin Powell?
Yes.
What's your comment?
My name is Tina Fraser, and I'm quite sure you guys are familiar with Typhoon Nelson that was killed in 1990, December the 1st. That was my son. Right today, the officer that killed him, his name was Dan May. Right today. He was never charged. I don't know if he's dead or alive. He's my child is. So pain is pain. A life is a life. Hurt is hurt. And every time I see a child or anyone that's innocent get killed by police, it's a trigger in my heart. It's a stab, a dagger every time.
Wow.
And
I'm sorry, ma'am. Go right ahead.
I have no animosity because I had to forgive Dan May for what he did because only God can judge him. Mm-hmm. And God can punish him no matter what kind of hatred that I would have had in my heart.
Well, thank you. Wow. Thank you so much for your call.
My sincere condolences to you. Many blessings and praise to you for what happened. And, this is why we've got to continue to do this work because, violence in any form should not be acceptable. No one should have to bury their child, ever. And I can't even imagine the pain. I've actually worked in a lot of cases where there's been shootings of people, police versus the community or community, Glenn, and all of it hurts my heart. And as someone who's come from environments where there was high levels of violence and I've engaged in destructive behavior in my own life, I'm so in love with love, peace, and nonviolence. And that's got to be the path for us, yo. We got to value ourselves. We got to value human life, and that includes, when I think about the image of Derek Chauvin just kneeing George Floyd to death and the blank stare on his face for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, I said, this is someone who does not value human life at all, and we've got to make an effort to get there because this is unacceptable where we are right now. And it's not just what we're talking about here with Minnesota, but it's all the mass shootings around the country. I mean, it's almost every day someone's getting shot, 3-4 people at a time. This is not what we're supposed to be doing. This is not who we're supposed to be. Who we're supposed to be. We've got to be human beings, not inhuman toward each other.
When We Free the World, the latest book out by Kevin Powell. It's got to be an incredible division that you have seen, sir. How do you deal with it every day? I know you spread the word and try to keep everybody inspired, but when you go to bed at night, go to sleep at night, do you even sleep? I mean, what is your thought process when you're? How do you feel?
Well, it's hard being an activist, which is what I am. It's hard being a writer, an artist, because you feel things. You feel a lot when people go through. At night I try to unwind. I play a lot of jazz music at night or classical music. I love hip hop. I love R&B. I love rock and roll. I love all kinds of up tempo stuff. But at night I need to chill. Right. I pray and meditate every single day, man. I work out a lot. Anything to kind of release this stuff because it's a lot to carry around. I saw a documentary a couple of years ago. I think it was on HBO about Dr. King, and it was actually about Dr. King and his mental health. And they talked about how he was depressed. He had very serious mental health issues. Why would you not when you're being constantly threatened with death as he was, and you're trying to help a lot of people, and then you got people cursing you out, saying crazy stuff to you. I mean, honestly, Glenn, I get a lot of hate messages. I've gotten death threats. I've had stalkers. I've had crazy stuff said to me. And because of social media, people can just instantly send you a message on Instagram, F you, Kevin Powell. And sometimes it affects you, you know what I mean? Because all you're trying to do is, I hate what you stand for. I'm like, well, what I stand for is love and peace and nonviolence. What do you hate about that? But it's just, it is what it is, man. But I feel like just like you've been called, Glenn, to Your ministry is media, is radio. My work is to be an activist, and you just have to do what you were called to do. And you hope, and I know you are, you're touching lives, and you just hope that you can help touch some lives and get people to, see things in a different way that's actually healthy for all of us, not hurtful to anyone, including themselves.
Mr. Kevin Powell, I thank you for the time because I know you're a busy, busy man. The book is called When We Free the World. Now, Kev, I know, how do you hold it back when you might want to break out on the MTV's Real World? Will they let you break out? Can you? I know, because sometimes you want to cuss somebody out or say something.
That was the old Kevin back in '92. I'm still angry.
Oh, but okay. All right.
People need to watch the 6 new episodes on Paramount streaming. I'm a very different person, but that's because of years of traveling around the country, including Minnesota many times, and just talking with and listening to different types of people. And that's the thing. We need people to learn how to listen to each other, learn how to talk with each other, and figure out ways to teach each other and learn from each other. And this separation is crazy to me that we see out there, and all of this violence and fear of each other. It's just not acceptable. But I try to model what I want to see. Honestly, that's what it's about. And I come out of hip hop culture, which is the biggest culture in the world, as you know, for the last 40 years. And it's people of all different backgrounds who are hip-hop heads. And so I think about the encounters I've had with people of different backgrounds. And so love, man. Love is the answer, Glenn. Love is the answer.
Love is the answer, man. Thank you so much, Mr. Kevin Powell. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for taking out the time. When we free the world, we are definitely staying prayed up. And thank you so much, man. I don't know what words to say, but love is the key, Kev. I appreciate you calling in, Mr. Kevin Powell.
All right. Have a blessed day, everyone. Take care.
All right. God bless. We look forward to seeing you in Minnesota real soon. Stay where you are. Love is the key.